and welcome to the valve webinar this morning on IIoT. And the market is, I think, going to be very important to all the valve suppliers. And at the same time, the valve suppliers are going to be very important to all the companies that are involved in remote monitoring and in IIoT. And therefore, collaboration among all of you is going to be very important. And this morning we have a number of people representing about 10% of the valve industry, and certainly with Honeywell and OSI Soft, and with Emerson 42 TEK, Solver 7. We do have quite a bit of the software industry being represented as well. But in addition to that, some of the companies like Emerson are heavily into all the IIoT technology. And among the people this morning, Ampo out of Spain has got valve sales of 180 million, Bray is 250 million, Circor 587, Crane 972, Emerson nearly 2 billion, Pentair a little over 2 billion. So when those two companies are merged here, which is going to happen in the next few months, you're going to have 6% of the entire valve industry under one roof, plus a lot of the software activities. And then Rexnord is involved in software and smart gears and things, but they do have VAG with 225 million in sales. And of course, Valmatic is with us this morning, and they're a smaller but active valve group as well. So all in all, the companies this morning do have more than 6% of the valves. And more importantly, we believe in what we call IIoW, as the Industrial Internet of Wisdom. And this is the interconnection requirement of knowledge, as well as and ideas, as well as just data from things. So part of that is the complete collaboration as best possible among all the different types of players. So let's start with the markets. We believe IIoT will radically change the valve routes to market and the revenues with a growth rate of about 13%. It will be responsible, and we'll get into the definition of that in a minute, for valve revenues of about 50 billion by 2030. So if you're an active player in the IIoT, you're going to have potential for $50 billion more in revenue, and some slice of that pie than if you weren't involved in it as a valve supplier. And certainly general purpose valves are the foot soldiers of IIoT, but the high performance valves belong in the armored division because their performance is much more critical to the outcome of the battle to improve plant performance. And IIoT promises to revolutionize the industry, but only if it is accompanied by IIoW, which is the Industrial Internet of Wisdom. And this, we believe essentially you're at square one on the Industrial Internet of Wisdom. Just let me give you an example. With all these things we're doing in IIoT, you're going to have smart sensors that feed an edge computer that makes some sense out of it and sends the more important data to the cloud, where you have data analytics, and within seconds, you've got some important data. But with IIoW, what happens to that important data is it goes to a program committee for some conference, and if approved 3 months later, is presented in a conference somewhere, and for someone to get access to it, they've got to travel to Dusseldorf in Germany, in December or whatever. So we have a long way to go to take advantage of what we say are going to be millions of continuous white papers that are going to be generated continuously. So it's a whole new world, and I don't hear a lot of people talking the way we're talking here. So, by the way, please chime in. You know, there are a lot of very knowledgeable people and much more knowledgeable than I am about many of these things. So, please feel free to make some comments as we move along here. But decisive classification of high performance valve applications, designs, and materials is critical to the IIoT success. And just this week, we put up a website with hundreds of PowerPoints on 3 or 4 different applications and specific valve types that will be kind of a beta site for some of this IIoW. And IIoW will generate continuous performance and condition information about each valve, so that so a large plant obviously has got lots of valves, and you get all this information, but then you really have to compare. Ultimately, you know, if you're going to replace a valve, you're going to buy a valve from somebody else, you're going to repair a valve, you really need to understand a lot more that's just going to be fed digitally there. So high performance valves, we've classified into severe service, critical service, and then unique service. And the reason unique service is because these are the engineered valves. And for a lot of you, your ability to compete on the international market is in these 3 types of valve. When you get to general service valves, there is more competition locally around the world. So by 2030, we believe that the total market for industrial valves will be 90 billion, of which 40 billion will be general performance, but 50 billion will be high performance as we've defined it. Now, the conventional route to market will account for about 40 billion in sales, but a new route to market through remote O&M, but also through individual operators having plant-wide, system-wide activities to operate the valves on all these different plants means it's a whole new route to market. So you're not selling to the individual plant. You may be selling to somebody, a third party, or to corporate management. People like ArcelorMittal have gone to a global sourcing for all 200 of their steel mills. And then the other opportunity is with additional revenue. So with smart valves and with some of the software that you'll be able to add to it, and you're going to be able to generate another 20 billion in sales. So one way or another, your 50 billion in revenues will be attributable to the IIoT and remote O&M. And of that, about 28 billion will be from your high performance valves. Any questions there before we move?
Muted.
Performance
Unmuted.
valves, but his willingness to assume a greater role. And so this is, I think, one of the challenges for you if you're valve manufacturers is, you know, how do you move forward on this? How much of it do you do yourself?
Muted.
Other things that you need, and then on the other hand, who are you selling to, and how do you sell to all those people? So those are all the things that need to be organized here. Now, Honeywell calls them stacks, but basically, you know, you have a sequence here, intelligence-wise, from the smart sensors to your edge devices to the local systems, and then the cloud infrastructure. and then, what IIoT likes to call the big data analytics. But again, here is where we say, we're at square one with IIoW, and it's one thing to analyze all this data digitally and with digital analytical tools, but making use of it and understanding it in a broader sense is where we're just, at square one. So if you're a valve supplier, at the very least, going back to those three levels, you have the opportunity to generate revenues in those first three levels. But some of you already are involved in processes, and so for some of your companies, you're already at an opportunity for levels 1 through 4. And then people, of course, like GE are also supplying the systems. So they not only have the valve, but they have the system. So they're going to be involved in the 1 to 5 level. But for valve manufacturers that are only smaller and only going to be involved in levels 1 to 3, you've got to figure out how to market and collaborate with all these people up through levels 1 through 5. And so there are lots and lots of things going on. For instance, Uniper and India Power are setting up systems to support and operate Indian power plants. So you've got one of the largest suppliers in Europe and a major player in India in that kind of role. And you've got Luminant that is not only now it's got a remote monitoring center for all its power plants, but also for all the industrial plants that care to join it for Texas and some of the other areas. Duke Power is big on this now. So there's a number of individual companies that are moving forward on all this. So the question is, who is going to capture the big market share on all this? And obviously the Metzos and Flowserves and Emersons now with Pentair and so forth, GE and Wärtsilä, all have opportunities. But a number of the other valve companies are already teaming up with the Honeywells, Rockwells, ABB, Schneider, Yokogawa, and many other providers. And so there's all sorts of ways to play in this game, and even with some of the major end users that I was just talking about. And in fact, we can show you we've actually tried to create a network of plants within an end user for Berkshire Hathaway Energy. So the improvement, obviously, of valve products is a very important aspect of all this. Again, as we said, one way to look at the IIoT is generating millions of continuously updated white papers. But IIoT companies like to talk about subject matter experts, and a number of the valve companies have already pointed out that, like Flowserve, as a valve company, says that their valve expertise and subject matter experts are what can set them, make them unique. So we believe that, and we can pursue that at some length, but maybe now is not the time. But we believe that we need to go much, much farther. We have a niche expert system up on our website, and what we think is necessary is you're going to have these millions and millions of theoretically continuously generated white papers. It means that you have the potential to develop niche experts that are very, very niche oriented, but very, very knowledgeable, and they would know more in the world about something. It's a matter of a certain type of valve and a certain type of application, and maybe it's just the materials or the performance or whatever, than anybody in the world. And if the world is organized, if IIW is organized the way IIoT is going to be organized, those experts will be able to apply their knowledge throughout the world, and therefore they will be able to focus on a very, very narrow area and derive sufficient remuneration to pay for their expertise. So we set up a number of these beta sites for specific valve types and specific applications. We have a whole website devoted to it, and so we have one on molecular sieve switching valves. We have another one on choke valves, and one on gate valves. We're just adding one on rising stem ball valves. It'll be up in the next few days as well. And there's on the same site we have a decision guide for ball valves in excess of 750 degrees F, primarily for ultra super critical coal-fired plants and other high pressure applications, mostly steam within the power industry. So these these systems need to not only take into account the normal operations of plants, but one example, for instance, would be your continuous cycling in the combined cycle gas turbine plants, which has created all sorts of different problems. So with flow accelerated corrosion. So these decision guides are going to be continually expanded. Let's take a more immediate look at the market and what we see as the near-term opportunity. We had showed you the 2030 market, but even as of today, there's a $7 billion market for the IIoT impacted areas, and this is out of about $62 billion market presently. Now that the market by 2025 will be 88 billion, but you can see the rapid growth rate, 13% growth rate for the IIoT impacted market. So it'll be a $17 billion market. So it's going to be growing much faster than the total valve market. Again, time for a question or two if anybody has one. So the traditional market growing at 3%, the remote O&M and IoT growing at 13%. And so the high performance valve revenue aspect of this will grow from 3.5 billion this year to 11.5 billion by 2025. Now, valve companies can increase both their CapEx revenues for smart valves and OpEx revenues for service and parts. But by acquiring all this process data to help them design better valve products, they can even enhance their profits and revenues. So again, we're talking about this giant resource of white papers, and it'll be proof of the lowest total cost of ownership if this data is processed properly. And I think we would all agree that it's very difficult for end users to get good lowest total cost of ownership numbers, and that this is going to be one of the advantages of all this. And those companies that best leverage this data and who take advantage of this to make better products are going to be the most profitable. So those focused on IoT will change profit gains of 45% in the high performance segment and 32% overall, while those that miss the boat are actually going to have a profit decreases relative to the IIoT. And again, a good portion of that will be increased base prices with better products. So increased market share, increase just for smart revenues, increase of base prices because you've got better products and you deserve that larger, you can justify that larger price. And so a 45% profitability impact opposed to minus 15% for those that are not involved. So those are pretty big numbers, and will be interesting to see how all that develops, but that is our take at this point in time. So going into the actual activities that people are involved in, Emerson is already very involved in all this, and they've been lining up with software companies and even can have visual identification of a lot of these problems. But again, the claim would be with their Fisher Services experts and global valve experts and data from multiple sources that they're providing expertise that will help operate, maintain these plants around the world. A Valve Keep is a GE program, and Allied Valve and several other Chalmers and Quebec and so forth are extolling its use. And it was interesting, just a comment recently from Allied that you know, that as IIoT evolves over the next few years, we'll likely see smart technology be adopted for other types of valves and actuators, or certainly your on-off valves and so forth. And also commenting that how much more efficient your operations would be if the valves were connected and constantly streaming real-time performance data. So all this data that is being input in the Valve Keep program can be coordinated with the online data that's also made available, and it's a whole new world with that combination. And a lot of the advantages that you have with these valve management programs become greatly enhanced in troubleshooting and visibility and managing of parts and spares and so forth here. Companies like Pentair, who will be part of Emerson, already are involved in control systems that provide effective valve automation. So this is the Intellis Westlock Pentair system that is being offered and uses embedded control systems to automate valves, and is certainly with a network capabilities, etc. here. And then they also have the wireless monitoring, which of course the wireless sensors and monitoring and so forth is a huge part of all this, to be able to communicate all this data remotely without wires. The actuator people are another important source here. And we just looked on the IUMA site here, and they have a whole cloud program under construction. And it will have a meeting point for experts, and optimum support is the goal for their program here. We've been running webinars on optimization and neural networks and so forth for power boilers, but fuzzy logic technology is another opportunity for analyzing predictive maintenance needs. And so one of the papers on this score has been published by a Nuclear Energy Research Institute here. And talking about companies, combining again, Honeywell and Flowserve are collaborating in this whole area. And again, Flowserve is citing their domain expertise, and Honeywell has the digital process management systems that are needed here, and provides the infrastructure to collect and securely move the data. Of course, security is another big aspect of all this. So the the need is not only with your control valves, but certainly on your on-off valves, and that solenoid operated pneumatic cylinders and things are needed to be automated in the same way. And Festo has pneumatic solenoid valve diagnostic capability, and points out that it needs to be integrated with the Emerson and Rockwell platforms, and they have technology to do so. So the resident experts are certainly required. Here is an ARC white paper that was written for Yokogawa, underscoring the fact that the experts typically have understanding of the systems or equipment, whether it's pumps or valves or compressors, that is uniquely advantageous to the end user organization. So if this information can be extracted from the suppliers, that is certainly going to be extremely helpful. But that isn't really where it needs to stop. You need to have dedicated experts in all these niche areas. Some of them, it can be from the suppliers, but we do see or even supplier supported, but we do see the opportunity for people to become very, very niche oriented. And right now you're losing about 10% of your industry expertise every year. It's only about 5 or 7% of your valve engineers, let's say, each year. But those that retire obviously have more knowledge than those that are just entering the marketplace. So in terms of the expertise that is moving out of the industry every year, it's a huge amount, let's say 10%. And a lot of these people are interested in working an hour here and there. They wouldn't mind, for instance, being part of a 24/7 program, even though they might only get an occasional call. But being semi-retired, they're in a position to enjoy something like that, and also to provide a level of expertise that is incomparable to that would be otherwise available. And again, it gives them a chance to focus on an area, and the more they focus on an area, the more expertise they can gain. What we see with consultants that retire is they're very knowledgeable in a particular area. They retire hoping to do consulting in that area, and very quickly someone comes along with a project that's slightly in another direction, and then very shortly, they're not even working in the area of expertise, or at least maybe the general area, but not the specific area about where they really stand out. So condition monitoring is a big part of the picture now, but it's going to be a minor part of the picture longer term. But this is, I think, a stepping stone to add a lot of the other IIoT to the present condition monitoring activities. So it can predict potential failures, and identifies the valves that are in need of repair. One interesting plant is it's on an island and operated by Shell, and it's a gas plant, but it's one of the world's most advanced, and it's basically operated with just a skeleton crew. And Shell's goal is to operate and maintain the plant with as few people as possible. And in order to accomplish this, online condition monitoring systems are employed to monitor virtually everything that moves in the plant, including pumps, compressors, control valves, certain structures, and critical shutdown isolation valves. A stated goal for the plan is that 70% of the maintenance budget and maintenance spending should be based on the results of condition monitoring. So it's being used for 41 most critical shutdown isolation valves, and it's a mix of single and double acting pneumatic and hydraulic gate, ball, and flow control valves. So these valves are instrumented with the strain gauges, transducers, and acoustic leakage sensors. And so the data is flowing up the 5 levels that we talk about here, and is very successfully operating in Norway. So, one of the critical things is the detection of leakage with the acoustical emission systems, and that is incorporated in the plant as well. There is a challenge at the plant because of the very large size of some of the valves, up to 42 inches, as you can see here. And of course, you are dealing with some pretty high pressures as well. And the data is used within and without the Shell network, so you not only have the ability to tap the intelligence of people focused on that particular plant, but throughout the whole Shell organization. A number of the other companies who are involved in these systems. So you have valve companies like MRC that do have Valve Watch, and that's displayed here. By the way, all these slides are part of the IIoT and remote O&M a system that we for which this webinar is designed. And so for anybody who subscribes, so that they get the thousands of slides we've been running, this is the 4th week in a row that we've run an hour-long webinar on these subjects, and we're going to run one every week for the foreseeable future. Obviously, the benefits of the MRC system are in the safety, cost savings by identifying the valves that are in good condition and therefore do not need replacement. It's a big saving. And then risk management. So they distinguish between dangerous risks that are detected and dangerous risks that are undetected. And the proper system can identify and move these undetected faults into the detected area, which is a huge step forward. So that is that's the end of the part of the program focused just on the IIoT. And before we move on to some other things here, and we do have about another 20 minutes left, I can answer any questions, and then we can move on to some of the examples of how we're addressing all this. Anybody have any thoughts or questions at this point? Okay, if not, then we will move on to, this is the McIlvaine Company website, and I did want to bring your attention to a number of things. some of which are a little hidden up there. Like this is a LinkedIn discussion group that we have a number of LinkedIn discussion groups, and one of them is on Hersig valves, and it's a free website, although it's by invitation, so you have to apply, and we certainly will give you permission to join us on that one. We do have a lot going on LinkedIn. I know I myself have, I'm connected to 3,000 people and find out, particularly in the valve area, it's very, very helpful to do that. The decision systems, in addition to the specific ones on valves that we'll show you in a minute, we have one for Berkshire Hathaway here, and this covers all 200 of their plants, including their coal plants, their gas turbines, wind, and 70 compressor stations. They also move 7% of all the gas in the United States. And we've identified the valve applications in every one of these plants. We've pointed out that they have and listed their approved valve suppliers for each application. But we noticed from plant to plant that it's inconsistent, and in the case of some components, they've replaced one component at one plant, but it's still the preferred selection for other plants. So we're trying to help them organize all this. We do have coal-fired power plant decisions, which is a decision guide that gets into the whole range of power plant components. We have another one on gas turbine decisions. We also, have databases with the people. We have sales programs. We get into the tracking system that tracks all the power plants, coal plants around. We do have those on gas turbine, municipal wastewater, oil and gas. We are updating that every day. And then, of course, we do have all the market reports. So we do have the industrial valve market report with the market share information, such as I was just showing you a few minutes ago here. So so those are some of the things there. The IIoT and remote O&M report, the details on that are here, and there's a lot of things that you get daily and weekly. And of course, for the valve suppliers, it's a way to be collaborating, determining who you're going to be selling to, who you're going to be working with. And for those selling to the valve suppliers, obviously a way to identify all those people. And it's got all sorts of different things, including a newsletter here. And this newsletter comes out monthly. But, you can see on things like clean rooms that there's lots of activities going on relative to IIoT and valves in clean rooms. And then you get into a lot of these details here, a lot of the things that Yokogawa is doing here, the Honeywell FlowServe collaboration. Honeywell's collaborating with Aeron on flare systems, and we think that's going to be an interesting area because instead of flaring a lot of this gas, you're going to be able to compress it to LNG and basically have trucks with LNG that will deliver LNG locally or use it in the operations of the extraction systems. So this is a pretty extensive activity and identifies all sorts of activities from the software suppliers, as well as from those providing all the components. So that's the newsletter that goes along with that. And so another thing I wanted then to get to and kind of end up on is this high performance valves. and IIoT. So, as we were talking about earlier, we do believe that the key, the armored division here of IIoT is really the high performance valves, and we believe that there needs to be a classification program, and then we've set up a number of specific examples, and we're asking valve suppliers such as yourselves to contribute. There's no charge to it, and then and we're going to be the rising stem ball valve is going to be added to this, but we do have the ones that you're looking at right here now, 3 of them in the oil and gas area and 1 in the power area. And just to kind of give you an idea what one of them then looks like, here is we have a detailed analysis of 50 or 60 different points in an ultra supercritical steam cycle, and the size of the valves, the performance, and then what is going to be required to go up to the next pressure and temperature level. We do have a whole service on power plant valves, and there's a separate even website on that one. And then this is the specific PowerPoint presentation that we're asking you to provide information on here. And so this is a continuously updated decision guide, again, one of a number of them here. And we're looking for case histories, product details, and specific answers to these questions of, what valve would you furnish for each one of the critical points for each of these types of plants, and what valve sizes are going to be required or are required, and then hard coatings and things like that are a major developing area right now. And what coatings are you using? Back on the molecular sieve valves, it turns out there that a special coated ball valve is providing, in one case, a better solution than the rising stem valves that had been used, and the reason is primarily because of the hard coating that they were able to apply. So we do have these charts that we're asking people to look at, and then trying to determine what some of these problems are, and then getting into the details. These happen to be the Siemens new systems that are ultra supercritical in Germany here, and and then some of the activities that people have to make valves more repairable is another important point. And right now there's a bunch of Chinese questions because a large portion of these ultra supercritical steam valves are going into Chinese power plants. And the question is, how many of those can be supplied by the international community? China's got a big push on to develop approval for their own high pressure valves here. So how this is going to all end up, what role New Way and FBIC, China Valve, Jiangsu, Supernatural, and so forth are going to play is constantly changing. So we'd be very interested too in your take as valve manufacturers on, are these suppliers that are now approved or claim to be approved, how do they stack up against other international suppliers? So we're getting into the coatings, and we've done a number of deep dives on coatings, and then we're asking for not only your case histories and things, but the valves that you are recommending for for each of these applications, and we've put up some of the information, but again, this is only the first week or so that this, in fact, it's only the first few days that this has been up there. So we've got like people on from Crane on the phone now, and we really only have the one Crane presentation up there. And then the arguments for these specific types of valves need to be explored. And so I'm just kind of scrolling through all this. And so what are the advantages of coated valves? And so the valves that are offered by the various different manufacturers are to be displayed there, along with what they think the advantages of their valve would be versus their competitors. So all of this is up there for discussion, and we will welcome the participation of the consultants and the end users and the suppliers at all these different things, and again, the case histories and things to put those up there is going to be quite important, and understanding, who's being successful where is going to be quite important as well, and then the coatings that you're using and why the coatings represent an improvement, and etc. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done, but we do think we have a pretty good starting point on a lot of that in these areas. So that completes my presentation for the morning here. Are there any final questions or thoughts people have? If not, this has been recorded. It will be posted on the IIoT website, and we certainly look forward. The oil and gas industry is the webinar a week from today, and we'll be peripherally talking about valves, of course, but all the IIoT and remote O&M opportunities in the oil and gas industry. And this is an area, well, we even saw this today with that Norwegian plant where there's lots of it going on. If there are no other questions, I appreciate your spending the time with us this morning. And this is Bob McIlvaine signing off.